thewellnesscouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives.
You're listening to A Quirky Journey, the healthy family podcast with your hosts Jo Whitten and Leah Follett. Welcome to A Quirky Journey. Join us as we share our family's journeys to good health. You'll find plenty of inspiration, tips and recipe ideas, as well as stories from everyday people who've struggled and overcome health problems and diet challenges in their own families. I'm Jo Whitten, author of the blog and book Quirky Cooking, and I'm here with Sam Bulloch, my good friend and naturopath, and she's also the creator of the Alchemist tree. Hi, Sam.
Hey Jo, how are you, darling? It's such a pretty day today. How are you doing?
Oh, it's been beautiful up here. So you're having good weather down there too, hey?
We are. It's been a beautiful day.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm better now. I had a cold last week and I'm all good now.
Yay, that's so good.
Yeah. Okay, so Sam has been on the podcast with us before in episode 7. So if you haven't heard that podcast, you really should listen to it because it was amazing. It was all about the effect that gut health has on fertility and women's health issues. And Sam's quite an expert on all of these kind of things. So she'll give us a little bit of a background, again, this time just for those who don't know her. But we want to talk this time about essential oils. We've gotten lots of questions about it lately in my chat group. So we thought we'd do a bit of this is sort of a foundational podcast on essential oils, and maybe later we can do some more on actual specific questions, but you kind of have to know this stuff first, right, Sam?
Yeah, I think so. I'm really happy to do specific questions if I possibly can, but I think it's good to get a broad overview for the first one.
Yeah. So what we'd like to talk about first off, if it's okay, is I'd love to know what your favourite oils are. What are you wearing? What do you love to wear?
Oh, that's a great question. I love that one. Okay, so I wear In Tune, the Focus Blend. I love it. I actually wear it as a perfume as much as I wear it for work. So today I've been writing all day and it helps me to concentrate and stay focused.
Mm-hmm. How often do you put it on?
Look, I might put it on a couple of times a day. Mm-hmm. If I notice that I'm starting to get brain fagged, because often when I'm working at the computer writing, I go into what I call man mode or single focus mode, and I get a bit mentally fatigued. Yeah. So I just basically use it to take a break and just to nurture my senses and refocus. And, you know, I might sip on a cup of tea and put some more on the back of my neck and I'm good to go. Yep. I always use Balance, the grounding blend, and Whisper, the feminine blend. They're my absolute favourites.
The first time I smelt, a friend of mine came over and she was wearing Whisper. I'm like, what are you wearing? That is beautiful. I think that's got to be my favourite.
Yeah, when I wear it most days, and I regularly have people asking me what I'm wearing. I have perfect strangers walking up to me and looking a little bit coy and a bit shy and saying, please don't think that I'm a weirdo, but what are you wearing?
Yes.
I need to know what perfume you have on. And
I've had that with, I had on frankincense and Whisper and probably a bit of Balance, I think. It was the bit of a mixture, but someone's like, what are you wearing? I'm like, well, it's this and this.
Yeah. So, I mean, I always use Balance and Whisper to really nurture and support my feminine energy because feminine. I do so much focused work. So that just grounds me into my feminine energy. I put it on my feet. I put it on my sacrum. I put it just below my belly button. And, and I diffuse frankincense a lot. I use frankincense and clary sage when I do my meditation and journaling work in the mornings, and then invariably there's either my signature blend that I've made up for the clinic, which is equal parts of geranium, frankincense and sandalwood. That's my absolute favourite.
That sounds amazing. I've got to try that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful blend. And other times I've made up, you know, I'll pick and choose what I put in my diffuser depending on how I'm feeling. If I'm doing emotional work or if I'm doing some kind of personal growth and development work, I use the oils at that level a lot, you know. So I'm a bit of a, some of my clients say I'm a bit of a witch. They like watching me mix up potions. And I'm sure I was a witch once upon a time.
Bubble,
exactly. Yeah. So it just depends on my mood. And that's one of the things that I love the most about essential oils is that you can just mix and match them so beautifully, your top notes, your middle notes, your base notes, and just create the most beautiful aromas. And it's just nurturing, it's girly,
it's a bit like
just something luscious about it.
And it's a bit like cooking.
It is.
You know, you start to figure out what ingredients go with what.
Yeah.
And what is just amazing together. And then you find something that you sort of think, oh, I would never have thought of those things together. That is absolutely, you know, gorgeous together.
Yesterday I did white fur and orange, and I was just blissing out. I'd never thought of putting those two together, and I was doing a bit of research, and I was like, oh, yeah, maybe that would work. And I just tried it, and the whole room just smelled like heaven. It was absolutely divine. Yeah, so you can get into some serious play with them.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, that's cool. So tell me, or tell everybody, what your background is. So how did you learn about aromatherapy? You know, what have you studied?
Well, actually, aromatherapy was the very first natural medicine that I got involved in. I have a background in nursing, as some people know, and when I finished my nursing degree, I moved to Sydney and I worked at the Camperdown Children's Hospital in the paediatric oncology ward, and it's now called Westmead Hospital, but back in the day it was in Glebe Point Road, and I worked full-time as a brand new nurse there. Mm-hmm. And as you can imagine, in paediatric nursing, it was quite emotional, it was quite spiritual, it was physically demanding, and I recognised pretty early in, you know, that part of my life that I needed to do something to manage the ongoing stress that was a part of my job. And at the time, there was an amazing, absolutely beautiful natural therapy shop called Essential Therapies in Glebe Point Road. Mm-hmm. And they had aromatherapy oils and crystals and flower essences, and I started using aromatherapy and flower essences just for my own personal use, and I got seriously hooked, and that was when I started studying them, you know, seriously. So I began studying naturopathic medicine at Nature Care College in 1989, and then in the meantime, I conceived my daughter Emrys and decided to take a break from naturopathic study to be a stay-at-home mum, and we relocated back to Perth. So I started my study at Nature Care and then I finished it at Perth Academy of Natural Therapies. Mm-hmm. So I was really lucky at that time because the undergraduate program in naturopathy was very broad and it included, you know, all of the compulsory subjects of medical and clinical sciences, so your naturopathic history and philosophy, body work, herbal medicine, homeopathy, iridology, nutritional medicine. And we also had to choose one or more of the elective subjects of aromatherapy, flower essences, Reiki, or any of the advanced body works. So we could double stream our electives and core subjects together, which is what I decided to do with aromatherapy. So at the time, each naturopathic undergraduate did anywhere between 1 to 4 years of each one of those subjects. Mm-hmm. And then we had to elect to specialise in our final year, and we got to choose a major. So I actually majored in herbal medicine and homeopathy. Mm-hmm. And so after graduating as a naturopath, once we'd done that, we all had the choice to continue with any one of the subjects and do additional clinic hours and a thesis on that subject. And then we could be certified in that subject as a separate diploma. So you could get a separate certificate or diploma in herbal medicine or in aromatherapy or in herbs or whatever. But you were qualified to practice within those modalities as a naturopath. Yeah. So frankly, by the time that I got to the end of that period of study, I'd done 8 years of full-time study already. And so even though I'd done all of that advanced coursework and exams for herbs, homeopathy and aromatherapy, I didn't do the additional year of clinical hours involved in order to receive the separate diplomas for each one, even though I use the modalities on a regular basis in my clinic. So I'm now, you know, many years later, I'm now completing my advanced certificate in clinical aromatherapy because I want to have that certificate. And at some point, I have a plan up my sleeve to do a master's or hopefully a PhD in this. I'm totally passionate about plant chemistry. I absolutely love it. I know that's going to make me sound like a complete geek.
No,
but
that's good.
Yeah, I really love it. And that's what I'm currently doing.
That's
so
good.
I think you asked me about the colleges. And I did a post on this for everybody in the file section in the Quirky Cooking chat group.
Yes, thank you for that.
But just as a quick thumbnail sketch for people who don't know about that file yet, there are several colleges where you can complete studies and certificates in aromatherapy.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the Australian College of Aromatherapy, you've got Aminia College, and you've got the Aromahead Institute in the United States.
Okay.
So currently, I've chosen Aromahead because I work full-time in my clinic and I do a lot of travelling to teach interstate. And I also travel with my partner to and from the US a couple of times a year at least. So online study gives me the flexibility that I need. I just wasn't able to find an on-campus course that fitted for me with my travel and my full-time work. But I think if you're a brand new person to aromatherapy and it's something that you want to get involved in, I would really encourage people to do on-campus study purely because you create friendship and there's beautiful support. And the colleges in Australia are wonderful. Having done, that 8 odd years of on-campus study, I'm a good online student. I have that organisational ability and self-discipline.
It's not as easy if you're not used to studying already.
You have to be really self-directed and you've got to be quite disciplined.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to do that with on-campus study as well. But
you've sort of got someone over you more on campus.
Yeah, you do. And it's self-directed, but you have deadlines in terms of exams and in terms of assignment stuff, whereas online study, it's completely self-directed. You do it at your own pace and rate. Yeah. So, that's it. Is there anything else that you wanted to know about aromatherapy and studying?
What if someone that just was interested in oils and just wants to learn a little bit more about it but not do a whole course?
Well, the cool thing about both, and I can only speak for Aminia and for Endeavour College and for Aromahead. I don't know any of the other colleges in detail because I used to teach at Endeavour, so I know them really well. I used to teach herbal medicine and naturopathic philosophy at Endeavour, so I know their curriculum pretty well. But I know that Aminia, Aromahead and Endeavour do short courses.
Okay, that's what I wondered.
So these are not, you can't get a certificate, you can't practice.
No, but just more for mums with their family kind of thing,
Yeah, and there are some beautiful online courses for, learning how to safely and responsibly blend essential oils.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
An introduction to aromatherapy. And also there are beautiful textbooks. If you're a book person like me, there are some fantastic textbooks. And again, I've done a file in the file section. If people want to ask me questions about, books and things like that, I've got a pretty extensive aromatherapy library. I think at last count it was about 70 different textbooks.
Oh, my goodness.
Like I said, I've been collecting them for a long time and I've got, I don't know, maybe the equivalent in herbal medicine. And I'm a book person. When people walk into my clinic, they're like, wow, you have a lot of books. I'm like, yeah, I do. And they ask me if I read them and I say, yep, I have.
Oh, crazy book woman. No, I love books too. We're the same.
Yes, went from right back.
Yeah. Okay, so what exactly is an essential oil and how are they made? Like, I know that sometimes people think something is an essential oil that really isn't, and they're something cheaper and made differently. Can you explain what an actual essential oil is?
Yeah, sure. So essential oils are plant medicines and they're the lipophilic or volatile aromatic oil or non-water-based compounds that are found in plants. So they're also known in some places as volatile oils or ethereal oils or acerolas. So they're extracted from the roots or the stems, the bark, the leaf or the leaf buds, the flowers, the flower buds, the seeds, the fruit rind of plants. And this depends on which part of the plant is known to concentrate the essential oil within it. So in general, essential oils are extracted by what you call low steam, low heat, steam distillation, or by cold pressing. And some essential oils are solvent extracted. So in the case of steam distillation, what that means is they have a really large stainless steel kind of container similar to what's used in the winemaking industry, and it has a collection tube at the very top and a domed lid. So what they do is they put all of the plant material, they mill it down, and they put all of that plant material into the distilling container or vessel, and then they run steam through that plant material, and as the steam rises, it picks up all of these little delicate, volatile plant compounds, and they're carried up with the steam to the very top of the chamber. And then, of course, because steam cools and it condenses, and then it goes down and it's sort of channeled into those condensing tubes into a collection chamber. And as we know, when steam cools and when you mix oil and water, you end up with a water liquid and an oil, with the oil floating on top. And that's an essential oil. That's what's extracted off. And then the water that's left behind is called a hydrosol. And we use hydrosols actually in cooking. We use them in rose water or in orange flower water. We might have had grandmothers who used rose water or lavender water as for their cosmetics or their toiletries or their sprays. So those hydrosols are used sort of in the perfume industry and the cosmetics industry, and also in the cooking industry as well, depending on the essential oil that's been extracted. Okay. They're really highly concentrated plant medicines, and yet they're really safe, powerful and gentle if you use them responsibly and safely. So every essential oil is like a tiny little medicine cabinet in and of itself, and it's made up of an array of tiny little chemical constituents that can be then further classified into chemical families or groups. So examples of these might be acids or alcohols, let me think, aldehydes, coumarins, esters, ketones, lactones, oxides, phenols, terpenes, and each one of these little chemical families or groups has a specific way that they work to support and nurture the body for healing or for, support or for modulation.
Okay.
So does that answer your question?
Yeah. So they're a lot different to, like flower essences and herbal tinctures and things like that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Do you want to know the difference between those?
Just in a nutshell.
Okay. So a herbal medicine, just like an essential oil, a herbal medicine is made from different parts of a plant, the root or the stem or the flowers or the seeds, etc. And the part of the plant chosen to make that fluid extract from depends on which part of the plant is known to concentrate the active constituents that have got a therapeutic or healing effect in the body. The difference between an essential oil and a herbal medicine is that herbal medicines are made by soaking the plant material in a mixture of water and alcohol for a period of time. Usually in the herbal medicine industry we use grain-based ethanol, and this process allows all of those tiny little phytochemicals to be dissolved into the water and alcohol mixture, and the ratio of water to alcohol and the time that the plant material soaks in is different for each herb. So once you've done that soaking process or percolation process, the liquid is strained off, and that becomes a herbal fluid extract. And that's what I use in my clinic. That's, I think I've got about 250 bottles of different herbs in my clinic. Yes. So whereas flower essences, people get confused between flower essences and essential oils because of the word essence.
Yeah.
So flower essences are only made from the fully opened flowers at the peak of their bloom. And so the flowers are very carefully picked by hand at dawn. It's a little bit esoteric, flower essences. So they're laid into a crystal or glass bowl of pure spring water. Then that's placed in full sunlight and they're allowed to soak into the water and absorb the sun's rays. And then after a period of time, the flowers are strained out of the water, and that water is preserved with alcohol to make up what we call the mother stock. And that's what is used to make the flower essences or the dose bottles that we buy. So if you buy Rescue Remedy, or if you buy, any of the bark flower remedies, they've basically got a tiny little bit of that mother stock, and then they're preserved with more alcohol.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
One thing that I have seen a lot of people ask is, how do you use oils safely? And I think it's really important, especially with babies and children, to know how to use them safely.
Okay, and I agree. That's a really, really important question. So there are three main ways of using oils. You can use them topically, aromatically, or ingestively. Topical use is all the ways that we use them on our skin. And we always advise using essential oils well diluted with carrier oils. So carrier oils are things like sweet almond oil or jojoba oil or fractionated coconut oil. And I teach people how to do this and why in my classes. So you can use the oils in baths as massage oils or aromatic body veils. You can make your own creams and moisturizers as long as you do it in a safe way. So even though some essential oils are safe to use undiluted,
like lavender, I think.
The operative word is some.
Some, yeah.
I actually never recommend it.
Yeah.
Because essential oils, truthfully, are the most effective when they're diluted. For one thing, you use less of the precious resource that an essential oil is, and it's far more economical for the first thing. So we want to basically have an affordable medicine. And then by diluting them into carriers, you actually allow the oils to work far better and be absorbed over a far greater surface area of the skin. So they're absorbed better, they work better that way, and you have far less risk of sensitivity reactions. So some oils are what we call hot oils or rubefacient oils. So they act as a little counter-irritant. And anyone with sensitive skin, so little babies, the elderly, anyone who has, some people have a sensitive skin type. So you always want to do a patch test every time you use a brand new oil for the first time, and you always want to dilute the oil really well.
What's the usual dilution?
Look, the dilution ratios differ depending on the age of the person, their sort of constitution and how well they are, and what you want to use. So it will range anywhere between, conservatively 0.15% all the way up to about 10%.
Okay.
We only use percentages higher than 10% if we're using the oils therapeutically. And this is the distinction. For everyday use, you're not going to be using an oil therapeutically. You're using it for self-care. You're using it for preventative health. You're using it for wellness. If you're wanting to start using oils therapeutically, then my best recommendation is to partner with a qualified practitioner.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And just as an aside, we use a lot of essential oils in baths. That's one of the ways that a lot of women will use them. For me, again, less is more, and I always recommend that you disperse an essential oil into another liquid that is both water and fat soluble before you put it into the bath. Yeah. You don't want to put your essential oils straight into the bath water and then get a layer of oil floating on the top that you then sit down on with bare skin onto some very delicate parts of your anatomy. So I make sure I like to use a mixture of oat and almond milk. Sometimes I'll actually drip essential oils into a little stocking of oats, and then I'll let the oats sort of soak in the bath.
That's a great idea.
I'll mix it into, half a cup of oat and almond milk, and then I'll pour that into the bath. But you can use any fatty liquid like cow's milk or cream or coconut milk. If you want to go the whole Cleopatra thing, make yourself a milk bath and be done with it. um, and then, so, the rule of thumb for safety is dilute, 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 dilute.
Yeah.
We really don't need to use neat essential oils. Like I said, there are some exceptions to the rule, a tiny dab of lavender oil on a mosquito bite, but the vast majority of the time you're far better served to dilute them very well.
And save money that way too.
Absolutely. It's, and I really have a reverence for plant medicines. They're really precious. They're coming from the plant kingdom. They're coming out of, the farming communities, and people work really hard to create them for us. And I think for me, as an ethical thing, as a responsibility thing, I think it's important to use them wisely. And part of that is not wasting them.
Yes.
So aromatic use is another way that we use essential oils. Basically, that's, using them in the air that we breathe. So we can use them as steam inhalations, in diffusers, in mists, and again, in a bath, you're getting both topical and aromatic use.
Yeah.
And again, it's about being practical, using your common sense, and being safe. So you're not going to put 50 drops of an essential oil into a diffuser.
No.
You're going to be using 5 to 10 drops in a standard room, and you're not going to be diffusing all day every day. You're just using them for nurturing. You're using them for a couple of hours at a time. And then last but not least is the internal or ingestive use of essential oils. Now, it is a possibility. However, there are some strong safety and responsibility provisos here. So remember that I always advocate safe, wise, gentle, and responsible use of essential oils. That's kind of my my hashtag, for want of a better word. Safe, wise, gentle, loving, and responsible use of essential oils. And so I always recommend that if you want to use oils internally, that you always partner and collaborate with an aromatherapist or naturopath who's qualified to support, advise, and guide you to do this safely. There's a whole science behind the use of oils internally, and yes, internal use is a common thing in parts of Europe. But I personally think, again, you can receive the vast majority of benefits from topical or aromatic use. So I don't use.
And it's safer.
I think it's safer. I think there's this fine line between taking care of yourself and being accountable and autonomous and responsible for your own health care, and being wise enough to discern when you actually need the support of somebody who has a specific qualification.
Instead of just Google.
Oh, please don't do Dr. Google. Please stop doing Dr. Google.
I have seen on Google. No, maybe I shouldn't say.
Just drives me insane.
Oh, just put all these really strong oils into water and drink it, and it's good for your throat. And I'm thinking, wait a minute.
The vast majority of essential oils are not. They don't mix with your mucous membranes very well. So you've got mucous membranes from your mouth all the way down to your anus. And some essential oils can be corrosive. You can get a lot of irritation from using an essential oil internally. And that's why I think I just say partner with somebody who's qualified in that area. There are some specific illnesses which I'm not going to go into where it is appropriate to use essential oils at an internal level, but you have to be working with an aromatherapist or a naturopath who's qualified in that area to actually nurture you and support you and be backup support. And then you've also got to take that level of accountability and responsibility for your own healthcare. And, it'll sound mean, but sometimes there are people who do stupid things. And, if you're one of those people that does a stupid thing with an essential oil or a herbal medicine, then it's kind of unfair to blame that modality or blame another person for something that you've done. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I had a man who came to see me and he literally drank 500 mils of herbal formula within 3 days.
What? How?
Yeah, because
that would have gone straight through, wouldn't it?
Pretty much. He rang me and he asked me for another bottle, and I was like, oh my gosh, tell me more about that, as I hold my head in my hands and shake my head on the phone. And he said, I was feeling really good and I figured that more was better, so he just was swigging it back, not even measuring it, despite the fact that there were very clear instructions on the label: dilute with juice, 7.5 mils twice a day with food, blah-de-blah. No, just chugging it straight back out of the bottle. Oh,
I don't know how you could. Those herbal mixtures are so vile.
So, yeah, look, I mean, I just think it's about being responsible. Yeah. And, we have to – I'm really passionate about people safeguarding our plant medicines. Mm-hmm. It's only going to take one person who behaves irresponsibly and, the tabloids get hold of it and it becomes a big scandal and it gets blown out of proportion in the news and in the media, and we're risking not being able to access medicines when we do that. And it can derail all of the very hard work that aromatherapists and naturopaths and other alternative healthcare practitioners have done over the last 20 years to actually make complementary and alternative medicines available in Australia for us to all use if we choose to. Yes. So I guess in terms of internal use, I don't have a problem with adding a drop of spearmint or tangerine essential oil to, a 500 gram, 750 gram batch of homemade raw chocolate for flavouring, or using a tiny drop of basil oil in bolognese in the dead of winter. But frankly, as a herbalist, I prefer to use fresh culinary herbs in cooking. Yeah, so do I. And I think that people get a bit silly about it. Yeah. And, I'm not one of them. Okay. And as
a little bit in something like chocolate or bliss balls or something is not a big deal, as long as it's a tiny bit.
Personally, I don't think it's a big deal. The aromatherapy purists are going to be shaking their head and getting really upset with me right now. But,
sorry.
But I don't see that that's a problem. We have essential oil-based flavouring compounds.
Because I know even in kitchen shops you can buy these, like the really pure, or like organic shops, the really pure lemon or orange oil to put into. Yeah. So is that an essential oil, or is that?
It would depend. Okay. It would depend on how it's been
manufactured. I've got some that's in these tiny little glass vials, and it's like supposed to be really good. Yeah, but you only use a couple of drops,
And like I said, I can't personally see a problem with it. However, you just have to know that just because something is natural, just because it's plant-based, doesn't mean that it's 100% absolutely fail-proof, guaranteed to be safe 100% of the time. Everybody is different. Everybody's body is different.
That's true.
So I think it's about being very sensible and just, please be safe with them. They're really beautiful, and we have to take care of ourselves and our bodies. And for me, the most important thing about safety and essential oils is to always dilute them, absolutely always. And if you're in any doubt, if you don't feel confident, if you're worried about your health in any way, get professional support and guidance, or at the very least, consult a really good quality textbook if you're unsure. Yeah. Make sure that you're if you're taking the responsibility of doing self-care and you're then taking the responsibility of prescribing and dispensing for yourself, then you have a responsibility to yourself to be well informed. Yeah. That's what a naturopath or an aromatherapist is there for. They then take part of that responsibility with you to guide you and support you. Mm-hmm. So, if you're doing over-the-counter stuff, then you are fundamentally being your own practitioner. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And Dr. Google is the worst. Naturopaths, as a general rule of thumb, despise Dr. Google.
Yeah, I bet. I have a
16-year-old. Drives us absolutely insane.
I have a 16-year-old son who keeps telling me things from Dr. Google. I'm like, stop it!
Do not tell me that. I do not want to know.
But Mum, I've got to do. Mum, I think I have such and such. No, you don't.
Get off the net. Get off the net.
Yeah, get off there.
Right, that's it. Disconnecting Wi-Fi as we speak.
Don't worry, we're going away for 3.5 weeks and he won't have internet. Woohoo!
You go through serious withdrawal symptoms.
I know.
Oh, dear.
Oh, dear.
So have you got any other questions?
Yeah. One thing that people have asked me is how long do you have to wait to see benefits when you're using oils responsibly and carefully with the carrier oils on your skin or in your diffusers? And, maybe it's for a certain thing like colds and flus or headaches or whatever. They want to know, is it a cumulative effect or is it something that's pretty instant or does it depend on the condition?
Okay, so this is the gazillion-dollar question.
Yeah. So many variables. Yes,
there are so many variables. I have seen essential oils work incredibly fast. Like I have had a couple of really nasty back injuries, and I get fairly regular, tension or what I call neck headaches. And I've used the past tense formula, and I've had a headache literally disappear 3 minutes, 5 minutes after using that blend.
Past tense.
That's the past tense, or the tension blend. It releases tension out of the muscles and soothes your muscles. And it also smells really beautiful, so it's really relaxing and nurturing. So if there's a combination of mental and emotional stress and muscular tension, then it just helps all of that to release. I've personally used the On Guard Protective Blend for myself if I've had, colds or flus, and I've had very rapid results with it. It completely depends on the accuracy of the oil that you choose, the accuracy of the dilution that you use at the time, and frankly, it also depends on what else you're doing. You can't just use essential oils as a silver bullet and expect them to work instantly like magic. If you've got a cough or a cold or a flu and you're not taking time off and feeding your body nurturing, nourishing foods and resting and staying really well hydrated and doing all of those self-care lifestyle things, it's a big ask to ask an essential oil to magically
just everything.
Get rid of it, to fix that. So,
just fix that. Yeah, it would be nice if it did work like that. But I remember when I was very, very new to all the natural health stuff, like 12 years ago, I went along to a talk about supplements and I wasn't eating well at the time. And I remember thinking, oh, this is cool. I could take these supplements and still eat what I want and I'll be fine.
No.
I've learned a lot since then. That. And I think there's probably a lot of people that do think like that early on until they realise it doesn't work like that.
So again, in terms of how do they work, how quickly do they work, it also depends on whether or not you're working on, a mild or self-limiting health concern like a cold or a flu or a virus or something.
I think that's what the lady was asking about. But
or whether or not you're working to support, an arthritic joint and you just want some nurturing and some pain relief. It will depend on the severity of the health concern. It will depend on how long it's been in play. It depends on so many things. So again, it comes back to, if you're going to be using them for self-care, make sure that you've got yourself a good textbook. Make sure that you are good friends with a naturopath or an aromatherapist and pay for their services. Actually, I teach my clients, I do first aid classes for natural therapy. So I teach my clients how to use herbs and homeopathics and essential oils for first aid.
Yeah, that would be good.
Most people need to go, need support with. And then you just need to have the discernment to know, okay, look, I actually need to go to my doctor and I need to get a proper diagnosis here, or I need a proper, check-up with my doctor, those kind of things. And that's really on a case-by-case basis. But as a general thing, they work really fast.
Yeah.
And they work very, very effectively. and doTERRA have got, their very broad spectrum blends for the respiratory system and the digestive system, the musculoskeletal system, the immune system. So most of the time, if you pick the correct oil for the correct thing, they'll work really beautifully. And time again, I see that with, the girls that I work with, in my classes and the mums that are using the oils that I work with.
So when you do your classes, do you want to mention those, because people might be interested to know where and how they find about those?
I basically just do an introduction to essential oils that covers quite a lot of the stuff that we've covered today. I look at how essential oils are made and how you use them, how they're different to other things. I look at how they're manufactured and all of the quality and quality assurance and, the behind-the-scenes stuff that most people don't know when they're looking at an essential oil in a health food store or a pharmacy or, or places that you buy them over the counter or looking at them online. And then I basically do that, exactly what I've just done for you. I teach them, okay, like we only use essential oils topically diluted. We use them aromatherapy, at an aroma level or at a diffuser level. This is how we do it. And, invariably people want to talk about internal use, and I'm really clear, just like I have been today, and, at a fundamental level, people have to be responsible for what they do themselves. And, just like that hilarious man who drank the 500 mils of herbs in 3 days, at the end of the day, I can only advise people on safe, gentle, wise and responsible use of their natural medicines. And
it's up to them.
But, I have really strong boundaries around how I work with that. And then I also do a beautiful class on creating blends. So we talk about,
that's what I would love to.
We talk about, the top note, the base note, the middle note of oils, and we talk about dilution ratios and how to be safe with that and how to work with that so that, you can be really confident. Because for me, it's about empowerment. It's about women feeling confident, competent and empowered to be able to make up a little roller blend for their children, to help them go to sleep or to help them get through a little viral cold or something, or to get themselves through that, or to balance their emotional body and nurture themselves. So at that blending class, it's really basic, but I have a big focus on safety and responsibility, so that anybody that comes into my sphere of influence that decides that they want to use essential oils, I do the very best that I can to make sure that they're taught properly at that level, and that they understand when to get help and when they can do it for themselves.
That's good. Just to finish off, do you want to mention, I know this will be really hard for you, Sam, but like about top 10 basics that people could start with if they have not got any essential oils and don't know what to begin with, what to buy?
Okay.
I know that's difficult, but
for me, I love frankincense. I use that every day. I diffuse lavender, geranium, and sandalwood most days of the week in the clinic. I use lemon. I use lavender. I use peppermint. I use orange. I have oregano as a backup support for immune support.
I didn't think you could stick to 10.
Tea tree is invariable. I mean, seriously, Jo, you're pushing it really hard. I mean, how do I say that?
How many oils do you have? Everyone known to man.
Well, I have a lot. Yeah. I probably
you're a practitioner, so you're supposed to have them all.
Yeah, I probably have about 80 odd different oils. But truthfully, I probably only work with, a working group of maybe 40.
Okay.
And, I use the doTERRA blends. I love them. They're beautiful. They work beautifully. And And then I, get into my clinic and I make up little special blends for myself or, for clients. But you can work with, that's the beauty of that lovely little kit that doTERRA do, the Essentials collection.
Yeah.
That gives you your absolute core essential oils to start you off with.
Yeah, well, that's what
if that's what you
with.
want to do.
Yeah.
And
got to start somewhere.
And that's where I recommend that instead of going insane, people just start with a really small amount of oils, get to know them really well, learn how to use them beautifully, and love them and use them. You don't want to have, 100 oils and then they sit in your bathroom cabinet going to waste because you don't know what to use them for. Far better served to have, between 5 or 10 oils, single oils and blended oils that you use that become part of your, at-home first aid kit.
Yep.
And that's how I recommend that people get started, and that's what I recommend that they use.
What's it called again, that essential kit, or what is it called?
It's called the Essentials Collection.
The Essentials Collection, yeah. Yeah, that's what I started with.
That's your starter kit. And then as you get to know them, you can just start expanding your use of them as you feel confident and as you start reading more about them and learning more about how they can be applied at a spiritual level or at an emotional level. Then you can just start exploring, and it's a really lovely thing to do.
Oh, that's good. Well, thank you for that. So Sam has made some files in my chat group with a lot more detail on some of the questions, so, where to study and the different types of, books and all sorts of stuff, haven't you? So if anyone has any questions, I would recommend you go and have a look at those files. So in my Quirky Cooking chat group, if you're not part of the chat group, you can request to join. Yeah. Or you can obviously post a question on Sam's Facebook page.
You can. My preference would be to keep questions inside the Quirky Cooking chat group, purely because then people aren't having to go outside of your page to get support, because there's such a beautiful community in there, and it means that if I answer questions for one person, then I'm answering questions for lots of people.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's just a more efficient use of my time.
Yes, that does make sense. Don't want to double up.
And also we want to make sure that people feel, safe and comfortable to ask questions. This isn't brand bashing. Everybody has, a choice to use the brands that work for them. And, we're not about, pushing one brand over another. No. We just use the doTERRA oils because we love them. But there are lots of beautiful essential oils out there, and I would recommend that people choose an essential oil, or in fact any other natural medicine, by affinity. Find something that works for you and your family and use it.
Yep.
And if I can answer people's questions, I will absolutely do that, regardless of what they're asking about.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We better finish off, but maybe we can get you back to if there's more specific questions some other time. We can do another podcast.
Yeah, and look, there were heaps and heaps of very specific questions, so it would be good to do a little bit more about safety, and there are some safety issues around essential oils, around substitution and adulteration and contamination and labelling that I'd really like to cover off, because a lot of people don't know that information. It'd be great to cover off more about how they work in the body and how you can get the best out of them. And then I can sort of start answering some of the really specific, detailed questions. I just wanted to be able to give sort of that broad overview today, rather than get stuck into the guts of it.
That's good.
And some things, frankly, are better for me to write up as a file for you than to talk about.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, thank you so much for your time and for all the work that you do to help everyone on my page, even though it's totally volunteer. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome, Jo. I really love you, and I really appreciate, how much you do for the people in the chat group. It's such an amazing resource for women and mums, and
that's good.
I think it's beautiful, and I love the community that's created inside that page. There's so much collaboration and there's so much friendshipping and nurturing, and I think as women it's so important to support each other and lift each other up and not be part of bashing each other down. There's enough of that happens in the world outside.
We don't need it.
We don't need to make each other wrong in order to be right.
Exactly.
Peace, people. Let's just be loving and kind.
Yep, I agree.
I'm a hopeless idealist, I know.
So am I. That's why we get on so well.
All right, beautiful. I will talk to you next week or the week after, and we can do another podcast.
Okay, that'd be great. And thank you everyone for listening. We'd love to hear your feedback. If you want to give us some thoughts or questions, please leave comments or questions on my chat group, or you can also leave comments on thewellnesscouch.com/A Quirky Journey. And I'd love for you to subscribe to A Quirky Journey podcast on iTunes and give us a 5-star rating. And also check out the other Wellness Couch podcasts. There's lots of them now, and you can view the entire range of podcasts on thewellnesscouch.com. Thanks for listening, everyone, and I hope you have a great week. Bye.
Good night. Bye.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives. Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.